Hashtag T2P, come and take a sip of the thought with me. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and peace and blessings to you. It's a great day. It's a blessed day. It's a Tuesday. And this morning, I have a special guest on with me this morning. I have Joelle on with me. Joelle, good morning to you. Good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you for being on this morning. I appreciate you.
Thank you for
taking some time out. Huh?
Thank you for having me. Thank
you. Indeed. So, Joelle, we normally have a little something we get into in the mornings, but I want to take just a moment for you to let our viewers and listeners know who you are and your pronouns and anything that you want to let them know as an introduction for you.
Okay. I'm Joelle Bayaa-Zuri. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Bad bitch. Can I curse or
go ahead. Handle your business this morning.
I'm a woman of many things. I'm a freelance writer. I'm the communications director for the Mahogany Project. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a Black woman of trans experience. So yeah, I'm a woman of many varied things.
How about that? Well, good morning to you all. Thank you all for tuning in. Like, share. Do all of that good stuff. And good morning, Stephen. Thank you for tuning in this morning. We appreciate you. So I have Zuri. Excuse me, I said Zuri. I have Joelle on this morning, and I wanted to have a conversation with her because her PSA just dropped on, and that sounds so unprofessional when I say just dropped, but her PSA premiered on yesterday, and talking about being a Black trans woman and what that means, and then to have an ally, and we're working with the TransAllyCollective. So I wanted to have her on kind of fresh off of the premiere to kind of get her take on what's going on and what she feels and so forth and so on. So I want to say this. I think that during this time, we always seem to have a lot going on. It seems like the world is in turmoil, and it seems like our Black trans women are at the helm of the nastiness and the murders and things like that. And so if there's something that you could tell someone right now, Joelle, this is not the normal format of the show, but I just want to ask if there's something that you can tell someone right now that, I don't know, could help or could shed some light, or what are your thoughts? What would that be?
It's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
I think that the narrative is that the only time that Black women of trans experience are highlighted is in death or in sorrow, or we're talking about this doomed life that we live. And I just want to say that it's not all doom and gloom. It can be success, it can be love, it can be light, it can be life, succeeding, achieving your dreams. It really can be what you make of it. Of course, being a Black woman of trans experience, we have to fight 4 times as hard to do those things, but it's not all bad. Like it's not all bad.
Indeed. And I love that. And then that's going to segue us right on into what we do here at the Thought to Ponder. We like to take a breath, acknowledge that your breath is important, acknowledge that you are important. And so what we do is we take 3 breaths, and Joelle, if you like, come along with me as I take these breaths. And what we'd like to do is just acknowledge that we're still here. Acknowledge that we're still in the fight. We're still in this love. We're still here to be able to do. And like you said, it's not all gloom. There are some brightness, there's some light, there's some love that's out there for you. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than others, but the reality of it is that it is out there and it's for you. So we take 3 breaths in the morning. The first breath, I'm going to count it out at a 5 pace, but the other 2 breaths I won't count. But the third one, we're going to take when we take that deep breath and we let it go, we're going to make some noise. And the making of the noise is you letting the universe know, letting the world know, letting the frequency, the vibes know that you are here and that this is like you're here to stay type of thing. So that's what we do in the mornings. Excuse me. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning, Casey. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Jennifer. Hey, hey. Good morning. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Yes, it's that time. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I would like for you to do is to take a moment, work out your shoulders just a little bit, get into your space. And what we're going to do is we're going to take these 3 breaths and we're going to let the universe know that we're still here, that we are still a blessing, that we're still loved, and that we're still who God made us to be. And then ultimately, we are who we are. And that's it, period. All right. So we're going to take the first breath on the count of 3. It's going to be a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Blow it out. All right, y'all. Shake them shoulders out. Give me a little shimmy. Give me a little Tina Turner. Rolling. Rolling. All right, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's go with the second breath. And remember, I'm not counting on the second breath, but I am moving my hands so that we can keep pace like that and we can go. All right, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath in. And out. So, ladies and gentlemen, you should feel a little warm and fuzzy around the chest area. It shouldn't be no pain or nothing like that. You should be feeling good. And this last breath, now remember, ladies and gentlemen, we want to blow this breath out and we want to make some noise. However, me and Joelle are not responsible, right? If y'all are at work, y'all in the library, and they come tap y'all on the shoulder, we're not responsible for that. We are not responsible for that at all. Good morning, Danita. Good morning, Dirty. All right, ladies and gentlemen. On the count of 3, deep breath in. 1, 2, 3. Deep breath in. And now look, ladies and gentlemen, I know y'all sitting up here looking at me when I make this noise, but I'm telling you, if you make some noise with it, have you ever seen anybody, Joelle, do any type of martial arts, any type of things? They make noise, right? And it's good for you to do that because sometimes we have a lot of stuff bottled up in. And so it's good for you to make noise. So, ladies and gentlemen, take that breath, acknowledge that your life is important, acknowledge that your life, that you're loved, that you're here. And if you got to do it 3 times a day, then do it 3 times a day. But normally, if you start your day off in a good way, you can always keep control of your day and end it in a good way. But let's just say your day goes off the hinge 12 noon. Stop for a moment, take that breath, and then blow it out. And when you blow it out, look, you can change the atmosphere, you can change what's going on around you and stuff like that. All right, y'all, enough about that. So this is Joelle's first time to the show, but y'all know what we like to do. So Joelle, if you want to get in on this groove, you get in on this groove and you do it. I like to be organic with it. So I'm telling you, if that's what you want to do, however you see fit, then you groove. Hold on one second. Had to wet my throat a little bit. All right, y'all. Y'all ready? Well, if y'all ready, let's go. Let's get it. Sit it ta 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 ta. Sit it ta 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 ta. So ta ta tun tun 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 ta tun T2P. Check me out. T2P. Check me out. Zoom. T2P. Check me out. T2P. Check me out. T2P. Check me out. Right. You know what, Joelle? I'm gonna have you back on the show.
I didn't know we was gonna have a dance break. I would have been.
Come on! I'm telling you now. I'm telling you. Look, Jennifer, calm down. Me and Joelle are trying to do work here. We don't know nothing about no twerking session.
I was about to. I was
okay, like, come on, because I welcome every last bit of it. Every last bit of it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're on with Joelle this morning, and her PSA dropped for the TransAllyCollective, and we both are a part of the TransAllyCollective and the PSAs and things. And I want to talk to you about what it means to have an ally. What does that actually mean? And sometimes how we can call ourselves allies, but we show up differently in different spaces. And some people think that a trans woman or a Black trans woman is a certain way or can look a certain way, but there's a whole spectrum of Black trans women. And then also too, people think your ally should be a certain way, but there's a spectrum of allies. So talk to us really quickly about, not really quickly, I'm sorry. You know what, Jennifer? Well, I'm glad that me and Joelle could give you that little tidbit this morning, because we want to make sure you make it through your day. Now, you come back and check on us a little bit later down the day, but we good. But Joelle, tell us about your ally and what your ally means to you. Or I guess let me back up. Tell us what your definition of an ally is, and then how your ally fits that definition.
To me, an ally is someone that not only shows up at the front line with you, fighting for injustices, fighting for equality and equity, also someone that consciously and subconsciously and continuously checks their own behavior, not only outward behavior of everyone else, but they're also checking their own stuff, because everyone has their own stuff. It's not just, there isn't just those that are privileged that are, the villains or the bad ones. Everyone has their own stuff. So to me, an ally is not only someone that shows up and stands with us, but there's someone that evaluates and reevaluates and checks themselves and continuously goes through that journey of allyship with us, because ally to me is not one thing. It doesn't look one way, and it changes over time because our needs.
Did you leave me?
Oh no, I'm here.
Oh, look, I was like, did she leave me? No, I love what you said about it changing over time. I love the fact that sometimes we can show up as an ally one way this year, and then sometimes we can show up as an ally one way this year. Like it doesn't mean that you have to be. But one thing that you said that's really important, that they check themselves, right? As me and you talked, I have a wonderful Black trans woman that's in my family, and I had to come to terms with how I showed up for her, and had to check myself, because I thought I was doing what was right and what was supposed to be done, and come to find out I really was not. I was literally in the way because of my own privilege, right? And it's weird because I stand in this intersection of, I don't have the same privilege, right? But then I stand in this intersection of, I do have privilege in certain spaces and places, right? Because I am a man that a Black gay man, but I show up, you see, a man, right? Like that. So sometimes I didn't understand back then what it was. And so when I sat down and talked with her, she said, y'all all love me, right? Y'all love me, y'all do for me, y'all do all of this. But sometimes you all do not stand with me because I'm at a different intersection than you are. You're looking at me as this, but the world doesn't see me that way. So I really like the fact that you said that they check themselves, because sometimes we don't check ourselves as allies. Sometimes we want to tell you where you should be, what you should do, how you should look, so forth and so on, when that's not the case at point. But you go ahead. I'm sitting here just talking.
I'm just saying it's definitely, I think allyship is about love, it's about support, but it's also about accountability. I think that the piece that is a challenge and that's missing a lot of times is you can be an ally and you can love, you can have this love and allyship, but there can also be accountability. Like,
right,
you're my ally, you're my ally, but I'm also going to hold you accountable and expect you to hold yourself accountable.
Right, exactly. That makes sense, because a lot of times we think that we're doing what's best. And this is what I told, and the person that I'm talking about is Atlantis. And this is what I told Atlantis. I said, I'm sorry, because I thought that I was doing what I was supposed to do, right? And that's because inside the four walls at home, in the family, we are very much protective and always being there. But when we're out in public and we're out in society, it's not necessarily that, because I walk through a door one way and then she walks through the door a different way. And so I think that's really important on that. So let me ask you this. Why do you think it's important for us to shine a light or to bring the allies into the forefront?
I think that it's one of those things where everyone tends to think that everything is a monolith. Like, everyone thinks that allyship looks one way. Allyship is not necessarily always about marching down Main Street with torches and a bullhorn. Like, that's not, that is a form of allyship, but that's not all allyship. And I think it's important to shine a light for people to see that you can be an ally and you can show up in whatever way fits best for you, just so long as you're showing up and you're showing up with love and accountability, and especially self-accountability. But I think it's imperative, just as we're shining light on those marginalized communities and those marginalized people, we need to shine a light on the allies that are doing the work with us and helping, fight the fight with us.
Right. Do you find it hard for allies to show up and fight alongside you, or show up and be there for you in that manner? Or do you find it easy, like with your ally, do you find it easy for them to show up and be there? Or in the beginning, was there some type of reservation?
I think that my personal ally, which is a really, one of my best friends, Kalia, it was just an innate connection, just because we had very, very similar backgrounds. We were both in different places in our journey and our lived experience, but I think that we just instantly connected. So it was easier for her to show up at that moment. But I think the challenge comes when things change and circumstances change and there's growth and there's evolution. I think that's when the challenge comes to allyship, because it's like, okay, you could stand with me, in the beginning or at point A when it wasn't, I don't want to say it's complex, but you could stand at point A, but when we get down to D, E, and F, it's a little bit more complex. We have a little bit more experience, lived experience, points of reference. And I think that becomes a challenge, because people think, well, I'm an ally, I only need to stay with you at one point, when that's not always the case. It's about continuously showing up, continuously checking how you show up. And I show up here one way, but I might not necessarily show up the same way in this instance. And it could be that instance where it really counts. So I think it's really important to continuously look at the ways you show up.
Right. Right. And so Jennifer said, what does that look like, accountability as an ally? And she basically just said that's what it is. Sometimes what we do is we have that mama syndrome or that daddy syndrome. And this is what I call it, because we want to protect, right?
Mhm.
We don't want our children or our loved ones to live. We want to protect them from everything. So sometimes when we show up in a manner of protection, but a manner of bullying, right? Because we show up and we say, no, no, you're not going to do that. Because no, 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 no. Let her do what she needs to do. And then you ask her, how about you ask for consent? How
Mhm.
can I help? Like, what can I do for you? Right. And so I think, Jennifer, when you look at accountability, I think that's what it is. Sometimes we dismiss the fact that they are our Black trans women because we love them the way that we do. We don't see anything else but, who they are as a loved one to us. And I think sometimes we have to stop and be accountable for overlooking the fact that in society, there are Black trans women and they are targeted at times, and most of the time, whenever someone talks about a Black trans woman, it's always with seething and loathing. It's always with this disdain that I just really don't truly understand most of the time, because I'm just like, this is a human being. Not to mention my family, my loved one, and I go to bat, be angry and ready to tab some stuff. However, like Joelle said, you can show up with the torches and the bricks and all of that stuff. But sometimes being an ally is just being with me, right? Being present, being understanding of what I'm going through. So I think that, and if Joelle, do you have something to add to what Jennifer?
I also think that accountability is looking at a situation and saying, if my friend, or if my sister was here and the same situation happened, would I have handled it the same way? Would I have had their back the same way? I think it's not necessarily making sure that you're on it when they're there. It's more important that you're on it when we're not there. Because there's a lot of spaces that me as a Black woman of trans experience, there's no way I'm going to get in. That's just how it is. It's the structures of our, systematic society is there. It creates systems where there are doors that will never open for me. But as an ally, those doors are open for you. You're able to walk in. So I think that it's important that when you walk in those doors and you show up, when there are those problematic conversations, those problematic situations, those opportunities, those challenges, you address it, but then you reflect on it. You say, well, did I handle it the right way? Did I address it the right way? If Joelle was here with me and the same situation happened, would it have played out the same way? Or would I handle it a different way because Joelle was actually here? So I think it's that not just handling it in the moment, but that reassessment, that reevaluation, and then, going forward, checking that behavior, because there will always be situations that me as a Black trans woman, I'm not going to be in. I don't have the privilege to be in, but as my ally, you do. So I think it's important because it's in those spaces that, we're doing the work, yes, but the work could really happen in those spaces where Black trans women aren't even allowed.
Right. That makes sense. So let's see here. I'm trying to make sure that we got everything going. All right. So Jennifer says, she says that helps because a lot of people think they're helping and they only hurt because of the lack of education, or they cower in the faces of others, especially in Christianity. And so Jennifer, that's a loaded question right there. But Joelle, so speak to that, because a lot of times what happens is that in this community, in this world that we are in this life that we lead, we are always met with the cross in the Bible. We're always met with that's against God, that's this and that's that. And so a lot of times, like Jennifer said, it's about education. Most of the time, people don't know how we interact or how we move because they don't know about us, that they don't know about, you know, what's going on. So I'm gonna back up because this is not about we're talking about Black trans women, but in a sense, it's about anything that's out of the ordinary, quote unquote, doesn't look right, quote unquote, doesn't feel right. It's always against God. Have
Mhm.
you had any type of dealings with things like that or lack of education?
It's more so just open conversation and really just opening up what, just kind of opening up the dialogue. How I always address it is, if you do the research, there have always been trans individuals,
Mm-hmm.
gender inclusive, gender variant, two-spirit. There have always been those individuals in various religious sects, except Christianity. And if we look back on our own African heritage, you see there are many gods, many deities that are maybe not necessarily trans, but they don't exist in the binary. And I think it's
Right.
people to understand that. And I always tell people, Christianity wasn't something that we naturally came into as a people. It was forced onto us. We were forced here. It was forced on us as a way to assimilate us and as a way to knock any connection that we had to our own history. And so people really try to tout Christianity and use it as a weapon. I say that's the same weapon that white people used against Black people when they were enslaving us, and when they were saying that we were 3/5 of a man or a person. They were using the Bible and Christianity. So we can't use the weapon of the oppressor against us and try to say, well, that's natural. Well, no, because you can't turn around and say what white people are doing to you is unjust, because they use the Bible just the same way as you all use it. So I try to speak with facts. I try to speak, and I don't try to be angry or upset. I just try to open up the dialogue, because Christianity is such a loaded topic. And I think that we as marginalized people, we try to hold on to anything that can ground us in our struggle, in our struggle and in our oppression. And I think as a Black community, it's Christianity, because for some reason, this religion that was forced upon us, that the oppressors made sure that they beat into us, seems like it's our only salvation. So I don't try to push the religion, because it's to each, so long as you're not oppressing me with the religion, I don't care. But I definitely try to open up the dialogue. So.
Okay, look, I'm always Jennifer and I talk a lot about what does it mean and to be in the community. What does it mean to lead a life, and what does it mean to be authentically yourself, right? And I think education is key. I really believe that a lot of times the anger and the craziness is because of what you don't know, right? So I'm gonna say this like this: we're getting this stuff handed down generation after generation after generation. If the first generation that it was handed to, like you said, was the oppression and nastiness and all of that, it's always something that you can do wrong, that's not right. Let's see. Normally it's taught, and because everybody wasn't raised the same, everyone has their definition of normal. Christianity is a religion. It is time to focus on spirituality. The relationship with God is what's most important. Let's be clear. Church folks find anything wrong as long as we don't have to focus on their sins, period. And you're right, Danita. Like, most of the time, people always want to call out what you're doing or where you're not on the wheel, right? Because literally there's nobody without sin, whoever your God may be, right? The moon, the stars, the river, the trees, Allah, Jehovah, Buddha, whoever your God may be, right? I think that sometimes we have to take a step back, and if we go by that we're all God's children, if we go by that we were made in that image, right? Then we have to understand that we're all here for a reason. There's no mistakes in that. You know what I mean? So it's crazy because I've had people tell me that, oh, you're going to hell, you're doing this, you're doing that, like because of what you are. And I was like, well, I'm wasn't I brought here the same way you were? Like, isn't my God your God? So I'm a little confused on how you can be okay and do everything that you do in your life. But I haven't even, and this was before I had even ventured into being a black gay man or ventured into being gay. I hadn't done anything, but I had that label on my back, even in the church. And I thought the church was the place where I was supposed to have sanctuary, where I was supposed to get peace, where I was supposed to do that. So sometimes we have to really, really understand where we come from. But you're right, Joelle. I really believe that because of the way that we were brought here and the way that things happened, right? I believe that we can't get away from it because again, it's been taught generation to generation to generation. How can you feel so nasty and angry towards me, and all I'm doing is living my life?
And
Like,
that's interesting because I think there's a lot of hypocrisy with it. And whatever religion, I just think that there's a lot of hypocrisy because it's those same things that people are attacking other people for that they want to be forgiven for. So you want to attack somebody for their sins, but you want to be forgiven for yours. Well, which is it?
exactly.
Are we picking and choosing what we're forgiven, or only certain people forgiven? And if somebody feels like they want to tell me I'm going to hell, or they want to call me a heathen, hey, I'll be quick to hop back. Hey, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. If I'm going to hell, that's where I'm going. So you're not going to send me. So if I already got my ticket, I already got my ticket. So, hey, I'm going to just work. So I think it's just interesting. I think it's the way that you address it. And I think that a lot of times what messes up the battle is people don't hear and they don't listen. And a lot of times when people are fighting about religion, about Christianity, there's a lot of pain and there's a lot of hurt and there's a lot of, this is not something that people subconsciously know or can even break down because people are just so stuck in the matrix and in this system that themselves have been conditioned to believe. So I try not to attack the person and even address the issue at a whole, because it's just, if a person is unwilling to receive the message, there's no point in sending.
There's no point. And you know what, Joelle, you made a good point, because I stopped arguing and fussing and fighting a long time ago. Like I used to be like, oh, you gonna hear what I have to say. You know what? Handle your business, bro. Handle your business, sis. I don't have time for it, because my life is mine. And I am really what I take in. And if I take in all of this anger and this nastiness and all of this loathing for who I am. And another thing that just really, really hit me home when I started walking in my truth, and I don't know if it's the same for you, and you can comment on that. When I stood in who I was, when I stood as a Black gay man that's HIV positive, it took me to a whole nother level of understanding. Like, I didn't understand how I was fighting against myself by hiding who I was, right? And so when we talk about being who you are and standing up for who you are, people always come out of the woodwork and would tell me, and I'm talking about my life. My life doesn't affect theirs. It doesn't do anything with that. When I would come and tell my story, people would say stuff like, well, why are you doing that? Well, you've been talking about that story for I don't know how long. You're doing this and you're doing that. But I was telling them, you have to understand, 15 years, nobody knew I was HIV positive. 15 years. And now I finally get the nerve and the know-how to say what it is. And you want me to be quiet? But that's what you wanted me to do before. It was okay for you to hit me up in my inbox, in my DMs on the low, but it wasn't okay for me to stand and be who I am. When I stood up, I lost a lot of people, but then also too, it seemed like a target was put on my back. Then people started asking questions. Well, what were you doing this? Well, you got a daughter? Well, how did you? Well, wait a minute, but you like me, and why do you have a like? It was like all of this craziness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Joelle, when you decided to show up as you, when you decided to be who you are, when you decided to do your transition, what was it that kept you moving forward? Was there a point of this is something I must do for me? Or did you have an aha moment, or did you have a moment where you saw someone else and you were like, okay, look, I can't do this no more. Like I gotta be who I am and move forward. What was that for you?
For me, it was simply it was my ally. It was Kalia. We went to college together. And at that point, I was more so androgynous. I was queer. And I was kind of walking the line. But I had my own preconceived notions about what trans identity meant. I had my own preconceived notions about what, being a femme-bodied person meant. Then I met Kalia, who's this amazing, fearless Black woman who taught and showed me, well, sis, girl, that's, if that's what you are, that's what you are. And
Right.
also showed me it's okay to stand in your truth. It's okay to walk in the light and be truthful and be who you are. And it doesn't matter. And for me, it wasn't necessarily an aha moment. It was, I'm going to do whatever I want that makes me feel good. And I also saw, well, because I started my, journey. God, it was in it was in 2004. I had started it. So it, back then it was completely different. They're just
right.
I didn't see anybody that looked like me, that identified as me. And I still really don't. And I just kind of did my own thing. And it was about just being truthful to who I was and just really making sure that in my journey, regardless of whether I had losses or lessons, I was still true to myself. And I think that that's something that I always carried with myself, even with, the times where I did lose, even with the times that I lost big, I still was true to myself. I still tried to hold my head up high, and just keep going and keep moving and knowing that it will be better. It will get better. There is a light at the end. So that was just something that I held true to myself, even at my darkest times, because there were plenty of dark times, especially being a Black woman of trans experience. There were times where I was walking completely alone, completely. I mean, I might have had, a person here or there, but, I think in those times, I still held my head up. I still kept moving and knowing that I might not see I might not see anyone who identifies with me. I might not see anyone who looks like me, but just to keep moving and to keep going. So, yeah, I definitely, that was starting out. It was definitely a different time, way different than 2020. I will tell you. Yeah, I definitely feel like, Jennifer, I definitely agree. I feel ask the questions. I feel like when you're continuously committing to education and committing to learning and asking the questions, I definitely feel like allyship, it doesn't necessarily get better, but it changes and it evolves. So I definitely completely agree.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. All right. I am so sorry. It seems like we just had a transformer blow. It was
Oh,
this loud pop, and then everything went blank, and I was like, "What just happened? We were having such a good interview. What happened?" Okay, so so I'm gonna read some of the comments here, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry because like everything went blank. Like my lights went off. I don't know what just the crap is happening. Um, you know what? See, they don't have to do that. They don't have to. You know, you know what, Jennifer? You ain't got to do all that kind of stuff. You ain't got to do all that. Like seriously, like I don't know what happened. All I know is I heard this loud pop, and then everything went blank,
that's
like
great.
that. But I'm back. I'm back. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I do apologize for that. We only have a couple of more minutes with Joelle because she has to go. She has other things that she needs to do, right? You know, business wise.
Yeah, if I need to be a couple minutes late, I'm okay.
Okay. So, there was a lot of stuff in the comments, especially about the Bible, Christianity, what's going on. I want you to what do you hope to bring to this fight, this journey, this love, right? And then what do you tell? Actually, you know what? Let me do it this way. What do you tell your young self? Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your young self? What would be one thing that you would want to let yourself know being young?
God, ooh, that's it's not easy. It doesn't get easy. It doesn't get easier. But to continue to be authentic,
Right.
to be honest and true to yourself, and continue to love and continue to be open, and maybe be a little bit more open with your journey. I think that we're taught to go about our journey in secrecy and to do it alone and to not be open about our battle wounds, our scars, our trauma. But I would tell my younger self that all of those things are okay, and that's what made me who I am today. And to just embrace it, and just to really embrace the journey, embrace the struggle, embrace the lessons and the losses, and just to keep moving. And it will, it is hard. It won't get easier, but it'll just get. So
Right. I love that. I think that it's good to we always tend to call out the good, the pretty, the glossed over, but we never want to call attention to what's bad and what's nasty and what's we did the Protect Black Trans Women billboard, right? And Chauncey Glover did a segment on the news and say that they don't go to the comments, right? And just because,
I didn't look at the comments because I don't be on social media like that. But I saw some commentary about comments.
So. And so and that I was telling me and Ian was talking, but I was talking to another Black trans sister of mine, and I was saying that we don't want people to understand or to know what it is, right? The ugly side of it, right? I don't think that you should stay there. If you're with me, I don't think you should stay there, but I do believe that you should visit that because this is what I believe, and you can tell me if you agree with that. I believe that sometimes we hide from the darkness. We hide from what's bad because we don't want to deal with it. We don't want to give it any type of fuel, if you would. But I think sometimes we do ourselves a disservice when we don't know what we're up against, when we don't know what's going on in the world. And I'm not saying that I'm in the comments all the time just reading, but it amazes me that in 2020 that we still have people thinking so medieval and so nasty and so just it just amazed me in the sense of, oh my God, like we may think sometimes that um we have it done right, that we've come a long way and that we've done this, but the fight isn't somehow over, or we can step back a little bit. But after reading those comments, it was like, oh bro, we can't slow down. Like there's no way for us to slow down because these people are literally calling for us to die. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like to be murdered. And
I think what I would say is I would challenge anyone that's an ally to read the comments. Because being a Black trans woman, I already know what I'm up against. I already know that they want me dead and gone, and they see me as a threat to this binary system that enslaves them and keeps them in a box. So I already know that. I live it, but what I want is I challenge allies who are not Black trans women to read the comments.
Right.
And that's part of doing the work, is to sit in those uncomfortable, disgusting places and do the work, or see what truly needs to begin. That's what I say, because I know what they say. They say them to me. You know, they might not be as much now, but I mean, I've been in situations where I've, been assaulted. I've been harassed. I've been with friends and literally had, groups of people trying to assault me. I mean, in LA, my hometown, shout out to Los Angeles, there were literally there were literally trans women who were assaulted physically by a group. Three. It was a whole group. It was a group of onlookers of, people not only laughing, filming, but assaulting, throwing things, taunting. So we already know how it is. I just think it's important that, our allies, it's not always going to be, oh, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, we're going to do this great post and we're going to do, this activism. Some of the ugly work is go into those spaces that Black trans women can't go in and see what they really think and see what's really going on.
Right. And I agree with you. And that's the reason why I did on Friday, I did the billboard and what does it mean? Like the ugly side, because people saying, oh, I don't go into the comments, but I was saying, how can you not read this, or how can you not acknowledge this when this is something that we're fighting for? If I'm fighting to be an ally for you, then I need to know what you're up against. Like you said, you already know. Here I come saying, okay, Joelle, I'm down for you. I'm here to help you. But first time I read the comments, I'm just like, oh my God, like no. And then you're saying, see, I told you, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I told you that's the way it was. So I think a lot of times we want to be allies, but we don't know what that actually entails. But I'm with you. I challenge you as an ally, as somebody who, and I'm saying you, but I'm not speaking to Joelle. I'm saying in the general sense, to you all watching and listening. If you want to be an ally and you want to know what's what, go into these comments when stuff like this is posted. So they just disregarded the fact that these Black trans women have been murdered. They just disregarded the fact of that and started calling these Black trans women anything. And then a lot of the other trans women that were on, and this is what threw me as well, right? I'm still learning, Joelle, so hold with me. But other trans women were saying, well, what about us? Well, it's just about the Black trans women. And I was saying to myself, if anybody should know, you should know. Like, just like Black Lives Matter. We're not saying all lives don't matter, but we're saying right now Black lives are being murdered in the street at a disproportionate rate, just like our Black trans women. So when we come to do something like this, it kills me that our own community sometimes stabs us in the back because we're not being inclusive. But the reality of it is that our community sometimes, more often than not, is not inclusive.
Right.
Because they overlook, right?
Why? We wouldn't even need a billboard if, the queer community at large, we have the ability to address this on a large scale to the point where we shouldn't even need a billboard if the queer community was inclusive. And they're saying, well, what about me? The thing is Black women, whether it's trans or cisgendered, are the most assaulted, most killed, most victimized within the Black community. And it's always whenever Black women, cis or trans, are highlighted, instantly instantly you see, within womanhood and within, feminism or within whatever, you instantly see, well, what about us? What about us? What about us? Well, we wouldn't need to highlight Black women, Black trans women, if as a whole we were included. And it's like, well, we're not even included at the beginning. That's why the billboard is so revolutionary. That's why it's so important. And it's frustrating because they're saying, well, what about us? What about us? Well, you already got the privilege. You don't want to accept and acknowledge the privilege that you already have. So I don't see you all getting killed in droves. I don't see you all getting, I don't see one of you getting murdered every week in Pride Month. So it's like, that's why it's important. That's why it is revolutionary. That's why the billboard is imperative right now.
Right. And, Joelle, and thank you for saying that, because a lot of times people don't really get it, because people want to say, oh, well, what about? But if this was truly America, the American people, this was the greatest country on earth, and we wouldn't need none of this. We wouldn't need any of this. So I say to you and to all my other Black trans women, and right now we're talking about Black trans women, I say to you that we are in this fight, that we fight for you, that we protect you, but we also show up and ask you, how can we help? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times we don't do that. We show up from this privileged standpoint to where we can walk into this room, right? But here's the thing. What if our community, and I mean community as a whole, was to come together and fight for the community as a whole? I never understood why we try to always assimilate ourselves into a culture, a community, or into a space or place that doesn't want us, right? We're all good when it comes to the fight, when it's numbers, but we're not good. Just like, and it threw me for a second, because it was one trans woman that said it, and I think she was a trans woman of I think she was Spanish or Latina, and but then there were other trans women and LGBTQ, like on the spectrum, on that same thread. And they were saying things that were so hurtful. And I was like, but wait, aren't we all in the same gang? Aren't we all trying to fight and trying to have a moment? So I really think what you're doing, what the two other ladies are doing with these PSAs, I think it's a great thing. I think I want to say thank you, because you stood on Front Street and you basically said, hey, this is what I'm going to do, because this is about an ally, but this is about you, and then you letting that letting your life be put on the forefront, right? And that takes a lot of guts and things like that. So I want to tell you thank you. I know I told you thank you at your house that day when we taped, but I just want to say thank you for doing what you're doing, because I do believe that it's going to reach someone that's coming up going through the same thing, or it could reach somebody that's older, right? That is going through some things right now, or that just wants to be out and love. And I hate this coming out thing. I don't look, just be yourself, right? And so I just want to say thank you to that, because I wanted to highlight your PSA and then talk with you after it. I posted it yesterday. So, ladies and gentlemen, go on to the Normal Anomaly, the Mahogany Project. They both have posted the PSA for Joelle, talking about allyship, talking about being a Black trans woman. And I really believe that we need to all come together and make sure that we are supporting one another. Joelle, before we get out of here, I know this has kind of been packed, and I don't want to, even though you said I could hold you a little bit longer, I don't want to hold you too long. But can you give us, I know in the beginning I asked you what was one thing. So as we leave today, can you tell our viewers and our listeners something that you really think that they should know about this movement, about what you're doing, about being a Black trans woman?
I want people to know that the fight is not what they think it's about. I think that the fight for Black trans women is not simply a fight about Black trans women. I think when you fight for the most marginalized people, you're fighting for everyone. That Black trans women are facing and the reasons why they're getting murdered are issues that affect everyone. It's issues of, homelessness, of education, of employment. It's issues of mental health and stigma with the cisgender Black men that are dating trans women. So I think that when we tackle those issues, mental health, employment, homelessness, that we can really, truly affect change in the greater community, because it's are the things that are actually the underlying factors that are killing Black trans women. Yes, we are getting killed mostly by, which is something that people often don't know, we're getting killed by men that we are intimately involved in. We're not getting killed because we're tricking men. No. We're getting killed by men that we are intimately involved in, who themselves cannot deal with their own stuff regarding their affection, their love, and their attraction to trans women. So when we start to address those issues, we will see not only a decrease in the murders of Black trans women, but we will also see the overall community affected in a positive way, because homelessness, employment, mental health and stigma, HIV work, all of those things are issues that affect the greater world and the greater community.
Indeed. You better say that. So here's the thing, Joelle. Now, I don't know, you did the groove and everything. You took the breaths this morning. So I'm gonna have you back on, because I like how you get down. You better come on with the come on. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is Joelle, and I put the link in for the PSA. Share, and let's open up a conversation about what's going on. And we can no longer be silent. Like and it's just funny, because I heard it in the 90s, I heard it in the 2000s, I heard it in 2010, and here it is in 2020, and we're still saying the same thing. So there has to be an issue. There has to be a problem if we're constantly coming back to it on that. I just want to go over, Danita said, you can't fight the monster if you don't know what it looks like. That is so true. You can't do that, because what I said on last Friday was that these people are walking amongst us. And we're thinking that they're clapping with us, right? But they're actually back there, like trying to figure out, how can I get them? How can I tear this down? How can I do that? Dwayne said, hey, Dwayne, he said, I always remind people who bring the Bible into the conversation to make their argument that same Bible has a verse or two regarding their sin. In the end that would be equate hypocrisy. The Bible allows you to judge, but you must also judge yourself for correction and answer to the moniker of a fool. So I want to say this, and we've had this conversation, and before Joelle leaves, and Joelle, if you want to say something on this, I want to advise and let everybody know that I'm not a sin. I'm not a sin. That is not what that is. And not to Dwayne, but Dwayne brought up a good point. People always equate my Black gayness or my HIV status to a sin, right? I'm not a sin. So I don't want anybody to think that it's okay for you to put me in the same category as sin, as if I'm doing something that's not me, right? You know what I'm saying? And so I'm always making that argument. I don't argue, but I'm always talking to people, stop that, because you're categorizing me as a sin. So my whole life has been a sin. I'm not God's child. You know what I'm saying? So just remember that when we start talking about the LGBTQ community, right? And we talk about where we are and who we are not sins. Like that just kind of irks me sometimes, because I've had people tell me that no one sin is greater than another. I'm not, damn it, I ain't no sin. What you talking about? Like, what you saying? So I just wanted to call that out. Like I said, not nothing against Dwayne and what he said, but I wanted to call that out because I think sometimes people want to always point the finger because they say that we're bad. They say that we're against God, that we're against the Bible. So we must be a sin, right? And that's not the case in point. That's not the case in point.
I definitely think that people also need to realize the Bible was written by a white person who was not alive when Jesus was alive. It was interpreted by a white person, and the Bible is used as a way to enslave people of color. Not just so it was used as a weapon. It was used to justify the killings, the murders, and the enslavement of tens of millions of people. Not just Black, but indigenous people all over the world. So I think that people need to really be careful when they are throwing the Bible, because that's the same Bible that they used when they shackled us and brought us on that boat. So I just, when using the Bible, if we're going to use it, then let's use it. Like, if I'm a sin, well, we're all sins, because that's exactly the same thing that they told us when they was beating the shit out of us, and making us pick cotton, or, that's all I have to say. And if I'm a sin, I'm gonna be a sin, but you're not gonna tell me I'm a sin. I'll wait until I'm having that conversation one-on-one, and we can talk about it. But I'm not gonna have that conversation with no regular person. No, that's not gonna happen. So the Bible talk, I'm like, when I get a version of King James that was written by Jesus, or I know that it was really interpreted word for word, then we can talk.
Okay, you better say that. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here. I want to thank Joelle for coming on. Joelle will be back. Look, I'm telling her she'll be back. But Joelle will be back. But thank you so much, Joelle. I appreciate you. I appreciate what you're doing for the Trans Ally Collective. Ladies and gentlemen, I put the link down in the comments. Please go look at the PSA. Share it, because there's some good things in this. And what we're doing is we're trying to stay on the pulse, and we're trying to push forward, and we're trying to be, and just let our lives be known in one sense. And then also we want whoever's out there, right, looking, wanting, hoping, wishing that there is a space and a place for you. There is somewhere where you can go, right? Mm-hmm. Joelle is a testament to that. Joelle is saying, basically, come talk to me, right? Come let me know. I didn't been there. I didn't done that, right? Come talk to me. So Joelle, let everybody know how they can find you on social media.
I'm on Facebook, Joelle. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram. My Instagram name is Your Man's First Choice. You can find me at the Mahogany Project. I do a lot of work with the Mahogany Project, Inc. As their communications director. I also do freelance writing for Spectrum South, a Houston-based magazine. The Q26, which is a Southern California-based queer publication. So you can definitely find me.
Indeed, indeed. Well, thank you again, Joelle. I appreciate you so much for what you're doing. And then I'll be, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I will have her back. I will have her back. This week, I'm sort of dedicating my shows to Black trans women because we had Joelle's PSA that was put out yesterday. We have Jayla's PSA that was put out the week prior, but I was able to get Jayla on. She'll be on Thursday. And then we have one more PSA. I'm not going to say who that is just yet. We're going to drop it yeah. So we're going to premiere that, I believe, next week. But this is good. This is good. This is great. This is good for the movement. But one thing I do want to say to anybody that wants to be an ally or is trying to be an ally or wants to be in the fight or wants to do some uplifting or send some love, just be consistent, right? Continuously show up, continuously give that love, continuously be there because the fight is not over. As me and Joelle just talked about today, and Joelle's expressed that I've been there. I've had the attacks. I've had the fighting. I had the slurs. I've had, verbal attacks, physical attacks. All this stuff happened. And so I'm still fighting. So I ask that us as allies, we still fight as well. All right. So peace and blessings to you. Joelle, hold on just a second. And then I will see you all on tomorrow.
Hashtag T2P, come and take a sip of the thought with me.